Our team was asked to look at intrauterine and early life influences on obesity. So why are we looking at this, and why is there a problem? To help you introduce the problem, we want to look at childhood obesity rates across the United States. This is the earliest that generally there are maps showing the obesity, so that's why we chose this population and compared to our early life development stage that we were asked to look at. This map was the United States in 2003 and the percentage of obese children. As we watch the map change, we see that the majority of states have a higher percentage of children who are obese than in 2003, a very high change for a very short amount of time. We also see that 1 in 3 children are now overweight and over 15% of children are obese, so it is clearly a large problem. So why does childhood matter? It has been found in multiple studies that if a child is overweight by the start of puberty, which is about 10 to 13 years, the chance of being overweight as an adult is 65%. So why does early life matter even more specifically than childhood? Well, certain factors at critical stages of life increase the risk of becoming overweight or obese as an adult. Now, what are some of these crucial stages? Well, some of these crucial stages include fetal development, being an infant, as well as the childhood period. So looking at intrauterine development through early development and early influences in life, we will be able to see why early life might matter for the obesity epidemic. First, we're going to look at some intrauterine factors. 2 of the main ones that a majority of studies have seen are mother's weight and smoking. When we say mother's weight, we mean both how much the mother weighed at conception and during her first trimester, as well as how much weight she gains during a pregnancy. One of the problems with mother's weight is both mother's weight at conception as well as gaining too much weight during pregnancy can lead to a large for gestational age infant. This means that it is an infant who, for their age at birth, whether it be full term or preterm, is larger than the normal. Also, interestingly, if a mother gains too much weight during pregnancy, this can sometimes lead to small for gestational age infants due to a decrease in ability for the fetus to develop as much as it would normally. Now, the reason small for gestational age infants can be a problem is these infants, once they are born, have to go through a catch-up phase to kind of catch up to where they should have been. Sometimes this catch-up doesn't slow down, and so this can sometimes lead to being overweight or obese. Also, if a mother gains too much weight during pregnancy or was already at a high weight before pregnancy, there's increased adiposity development in infants, or the fat cells develop more. This increases the fat deposits the child is born with, and often it increases the amount of fat deposits that are developed through all of life because the stage for these adipocytes are set during fetal development. There's also an increased risk of type 2 diabetes later in life in mothers who have a high BMI or who gain too much weight during pregnancy and develop gestational diabetes. Another factor that many studies have shown can contribute to the overweight and obesity epidemic is mothers who smoke in pregnancy. Children born to mothers who reported smoking were at a 1.52 to 2.22 times higher risk of becoming overweight or obese during childhood. And like we said at the beginning, if you become overweight or obese during childhood, you are more likely to be overweight or obese as an adult. Also, another factor in this mother who smokes in pregnancy is often mothers who smoke in pregnancy have small for gestational age infants. The next stage of life we're going to look at is breastfeeding. It's been found that breastfeeding decreases the risk of high BMI at age 7. So why does it decrease the rates of being overweight and obese? There are a few different theories that different researchers have come up to help explain this phenomenon. The first is infants who are breastfed generally gain weight at a slower rate and often have a lower energy intake. Sometimes this is because the parents overfeed with a bottle, whether on purpose or by accident. If you feed the kid more, they're going to sleep more, so sometimes parents force feed their infants these bottles. Sometimes it's just an experience of the parents not knowing when the baby is full and thinking they need to finish the bottle. Also, even if the two infants get the same amount of calories, one being breastfed, one being bottle fed, the breastfed generally still has that slower rate. And as we discussed before, if infants gain too quickly or have any sort of growth curve that looks like catch-up growth, that can lead to being overweight and obese. Also, it's been found that those who are bottle fed have a 3.2 times greater risk of rapid weight gain between the ages of 2 and 6 years old. Oftentimes, once we get this rapid weight gain, it doesn't slow down and it leads to the problem of being overweight or obese. Now, another thing is hormones are transferred through breast milk where infant formula does not have the same hormones. Some of these hormones include leptin, ghrelin, adiponectin, and resistin, all of which have to do with energy intake and satiety, as well as the regulation and metabolism in the body. So these infants, it has been proposed, it may possibly feel fuller because of the extra hormones that are released through the mother's milk. Now, breastfeeding is great. It may reduce the risk of being overweight by 7 to 24%. And one of those, the reason there's such a wide range is part of what determines that risk is how long you breastfeed. The longer you breastfeed, the less likely you are to be overweight or obese later in life. Well, it's been found that overweight and obese women are less likely to breastfeed or choose to breastfeed for a shorter amount of time. The reason we're asking cause or effect, is it because they're breastfeeding that makes it less likely to be overweight or obese, or is it an effect of the environment? Oftentimes these overweight and obese women can be lower socioeconomic, as well as them themselves are overweight and obese, which can increase the chances of a child being obese. So is it the breastfeeding, or is it the correlation between the overweight and obese women not breastfeeding that causes breastfeeding to look beneficial? Also, women who are higher educated are more likely to breastfeed. And once again, oftentimes those who are higher educated know better about eating habits, know better about feeding children, and often join things like gyms or things to stay healthy, which can lead to a lifelong of healthier weight. There's a few other factors in childhood and early childhood that also contribute to this discussion. So one we're going to look at is mealtime structure. Family meals are inversely correlated with being overweight and obese. Generally, if you have family meals, you are less likely to be overweight or obese. Also, the next is division of responsibility. Ellen Sater discusses this division of responsibility with children and how parents need to decide what, where, and when to feed their children, whereas the child gets to decide what of the food that's offered they eat, and whether or not they eat, and how much they eat. Sometimes parents won't let the child choose. They'll force them to finish their plate. They'll say just 5 more bites of the meat or 2 more bites of the vegetables. Sometimes this can lead to the child not understanding when they feel full because they feel like they need to finish their plate. And these can also contribute to lifelong habits of feeling like you need to finish your plate even when too much is offered. Another interesting fact is sleeping. At the age of 3, if you sleep less than 3 hours, you have a higher rate of being overweight or obese at age 7, which is a very interesting correlation that sleep, both in infancy up through childhood, could have this effect on being overweight or obese. As we look at all these things, we looked at a lot of different studies. Our conclusion was there are factors during inter-uterine growth and early life development that can contribute to obesity, although some of them are not known if it's because of their parents or because of the actual actions such as breastfeeding.